to Appletree Cottage here in the Scottish borders. It's lovely to see you again. I'm so glad that you've clicked the button, and hopefully we'll have a lovely time together. Today is Tuesday the 27th of May 2025, and the weather has changed slightly. As you can see, I am wearing my dress but also my cardigan on top of it. Normally this happens every year. In May we have a glorious 2 to 3 weeks, absolutely wonderful, and that's just when all the young people at school are doing their exams. And it happens every year, and as soon as the exam phase finishes, the weather breaks. It's extraordinary. I feel that the government ought to change the school terms so that exams are perhaps done before May, and then the young people can have a jolly good time at the seaside or climbing the mountains and just getting out in the fresh air and sunshine, which is so good for everyone. The weather now, we've had cold and blustery and extremely wet, which means I'm not watering the garden at all, and far from it. And then we go through sort of bumpy weather, and it gets rather nice through June. We tend to have a wet July, and then the next really good piece of weather normally is late August and into September, and it can be sometimes be one of the very best times of year then. And then I absolutely love going into the autumn. My birthday's in November, and so I just adore that time of year. I really do. That's a sort of a quick weather report from here in Scotland, and I'm sure it's very different to most other places in the world. We have a really temperate climate, which absolutely suits me. I'm not someone who likes too much heat. Anyway, there we are with that. Now, what have I to show you this week? Moving on, I realise that probably my progress appears rather slow compared to some other floss tubers, but then at the moment what I'm doing, and since I began in February, is I am publishing every week rather than once a fortnight or even sometimes once a month. So I really appreciate those who are coming back and seeing my minuscule progress on my samplers week by week, but of course it all builds up. And I do have, from time to time, some finishes, as you know. Anyway, today I'm going to show you my absolute favourite sampler stitch at the moment, certainly of 2025, Come Into My Garden by Blackbird Designs. And I have been stitching this. I know that they suggest Velt by Picture the Plus. I didn't have Velt, and do you know, I made a really very, very fortunate choice in that I went for a fabric that I think absolutely suits this sampler, and that is Vintage Country Mocha, and it's 36 count, and because it has a sort of sandy tannish colour to it, I think it really does show up the thread choices extremely well. So it's coming along. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I now have both birds and flowers and all of the little motifs accomplished at either side of the house, and I'm now working on the house. I think there are 7 windows and a door, and I think potentially what I'm going to do is take my time with the house. As you can see, I finished the bottom border very, very early on, and I've been working down one sort of block at a time, one little annex, if you like, one little garden room at each side as I come down the rows. So I've got the next annex to go on either side, and then coming across into, I think it's some more motifs. Yeah, it's a flower basket. It's a flower basket. So I'm alternating this fortnightly with Merrily Merrily. And this past week I continued with Merrily Merrily, as you'll know from last episode. So this did actually for 1 week get shared with Merrily Merrily. And Merrily Merrily we have here, and it is also Merrily Merrily We Welcome the Spring, also a Blackbird design. And as I was saying, I normally alternate this, so I've gone slightly out of sync. The reason for that was because I was very frustrated with the colour of the thread with the fabric choice. I felt that the colours were just being submerged, were sinking in, and I couldn't see them. Now I think they came up on screen. I had a comment from someone saying, well actually they look okay on screen, but in reality here in my home I wasn't able to see too much of this vase here, and it was frustrating me. I also for some reason or other wasn't enjoying it, probably for that reason. Their choice is 36 count oaken by Picture This Plus, and that's actually what I have been working on. Here we are, and my aim for the week was to, with Come Into the Garden, just continue and start to work with a choice of darker thread, and it's really worked, and I'm really enjoying this now. I didn't to begin with. I'm using what I decided to go with. There's this little band here which you'll see on the close-up photograph, is definitely darker. It's coming across that way, and if I feel at the end of it that as I've come across with the darker tones, it looks unbalanced, then I'll certainly take out this little corner here and redo it in the darker colours, but I'm just waiting to see. And what about the actual colours? Well, I think you'll remember, if you've watched me from the beginning, I used to go on a very regular basis when I lived in Edinburgh to their Hobbycraft there. It was just down the road. It was a stone's throw, well, driving. And every time I went in, which as I say was very regularly, I would pick up another handful of DMC and some anchor. And I built up all of my DMC. It was just too tempting. They were laid out in the colour tones, and I just really enjoyed doing that. And so I have my own collection of every one of the DMCs, and I have this amazing colour palette, if you like, going through, and I can't remember how many colours there are. Do I know? I think it's over 400 anyway. And then what I did was I made my own, not a sample card, but a sample book, which did take rather a long time. I've shown it before, but if I remember, I might show it to you next week. That was extremely helpful, because though I have all the threads in order, I can just go to my book and look up and see the colour of thread that would be a good choice, the numbers beside it, and then I can go straight to my little drawers, which I haven't shown you. That's for another episode. So what did I do? Well, I went to my book and I picked out a choice of DMC that I felt were going along with the tones. You can see here the reds are darker than the raspberry, which was the original called for colour. Just going into slightly darker colours of the greens and the reds, and then using these as a medley to be using darker threads and getting a rather more satisfactory colour tone out of it. And the blue here I have is 169, which is again is a duller blue. Though I do like the blues that Blackbird Designs had chosen These were the originals, which I'm still also using. Mountain Mist, Swiss Chocolate, that's Weeks Dye Works. Mountain Mist is simply Shaker. Another Weeks Dye Works is Mocha. And one I'm really liking, which is Swiss Chocolate. There's Weeks Dye Works Bark, Dublin Bay, which is a beautiful, beautiful blue. Classic Colourworks Blue Corn, another absolutely gorgeous blue. I seem to have two Mountain Mists there. Swiss Chocolate, Weeks Dye Works. I really like that one. And it was a Swiss Chocolate. Once I started using that, I think it's on an alphabet, I realised that it for my taste, the Oaken did need the darker colour. So, I mean, the lesson of all of this is, before you begin, make sure that you're very happy with the thread choice against whatever linen fabric you're going to choose. So that was maybe not a happy ending because it's still going on, and my choice is to continue with Come Into My Garden and Merrily Merrily, alternating week by week and adding in other things. So these are my sort of my two anchor pieces, probably for much of 2025, certainly for this one. Come Into My Garden, I should have it finished by the end of the summer, I should think. But we won't be too hasty to predict, because life happens and sometimes I just go off at a tangent. Anyway, variety being the spice of life. My third one, I like to work with three, is one that kept jumping out at me, and it was Mrs. Holly Jones. And the last time I watched her last week, she had stitching it, and I thought, oh yes, there's that one, and I really did mean to keep picking it up and going with it. So thank you. This has been the catalyst for me to start on this one. So again, case in point, I decided with this one that I love the design, but I felt that the colours were just rather too red and too blue, just red, plain blue. And I wasn't all that happy with the border. My decisions on this were so I tried a bit of the border, and actually getting down to it, I thought, no, I'm going to settle, I'm going to go with this border. And I didn't want to end up doing endless borders. I wanted to get in there. So I went straight to the motif. Now I know that Mrs. Jones stitches, is it Mrs. Jones? No, it's Kim the Contented Stitcher. Sometimes just uses one motif or a part of a sampler. And that takes the pressure out of getting the whole thing done. So I thought, right, let's go with the central motif, because actually that's one of the things that's extremely attractive about this. Let's go straight there and let's play around a little bit. So I started in it and I played around with it. How did I play around with it? I decided, rather than the brick red, which was what they suggested, used brick by Classic Colourworks, DMC 3858, just the one colour in the middle, that I would, and with the border, pick up a whole selection, why not, of a great many reds and keep swapping and moving the reds around. The central motif, the central flower here, I've used 3 different reds, and I've done it there. They're identical, and then this one I'm using different threads. So as you can see, I'm really really playing with it, and this is probably the influence of the Basket of Cherries by Blackbird Designs that I finished last week. And I'm talking too fast, I'll slow down because I get excited. The basket of cherries. Oh, there were so many colour changes, but that influenced this, and I'm sort of making quite a few colour changes. The other influence from Basket of Cherries was Ruby Slipper. Oh, beautiful red. Ruby Slipper by the Gentle Art Simple Shaker. Ruby Slipper. Oh, that's so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. Just going into that deep colour. So here are my choices. What am I stitching it on? I think I'm probably going with whatever they've suggested, which is yes, 36 count legacy by Picture This Plus. That is what I am stitching it on, and I am going with Ruby Slipper, Antique Rose. Another absolutely beautiful pink is Geranium, Tea Rose, Rhubarb. Oh, if you've not come across rhubarb, and Hollyberry, also absolutely gorgeous. They are all by the Gentle Art Sampler threads. And so is this one here, Mulberry, just going into that very dark tone. And it's good, it is a good idea to have dark tones in with lighter ones. You could even have an even lighter pink in there. That gives us a real variety and moves the eye across the sampler and back again. Playing around with that. As you can see, I love pink and blue. I love pink and blue. When I paint, I tend towards pink and red roses and blue vases, and that's, but I live in a red and green house. What would we do without colour? I don't know. So what would we do without colour? Well, I do know. And I came across a couple of weeks ago something that I'd made, years ago now, and I thought, perhaps this would interest my viewers. And in fact, it led on to rather more than I had thought, and I will be continuing this theme at least in the next week or so. What did I come across? I came across a book cover that I had made, as I say, absolutely years ago now, and I'd used what's called Blackwork, and you can see how incredibly effective this is. The book itself is just a plain sketchbook, which I've covered in quite heavy Hessian. We were taught at school to cover our books at the beginning of every school year. The books would either have been bought by us or lent by the school, usually bought by us, and then were sold again at the end of the year. And we were taught to cover our books, usually with brown paper. And I'm sure there will be quite a few comments from people saying, I remember doing that too. It was actually a very, very useful skill. So this is a sort of extension of that, and it is very satisfying to cover your own books. Anyway, Blackwork. You take a black thread and you use what is called a double running stitch, and it's incredibly easy. I have transferred my design on 3 times. It's just the one design that's gone down 3 times. And my design is ivy and rosebuds. And I have embellished the centres just with a little pearl button. And I had done this, oops-a-daisy, the acquisition and decoration of houses. And that was, she's just gone out of my head now, an American lady who did, I will remember, I'll put her name down at the bottom. And it was inspired by a lady who wrote the decoration of the houses. It's gone out of my head. And at the time, I was not living in my own house. I was living in my studio, which actually I did enjoy very much, and I was very productive there. But I was hankering after my own house, which, as you can see, dreams do come true. Here I am in my dream house. But at the time, I was following this lady and designing in my mind the type of house that I would like. And this was to be soft furnishing. That was my soft furnishing idea. Well, I didn't go with that, did other things, and I had written things out. I look back at this and laugh. Kitchen surround curtains. There is a horrid, ugly corner which is to be transformed with an exquisite William Morris fabric. And then I have fixed curtain railing, measure and calculate 2 curtains with hems, cut out, iron the material, press hems, decide on sewing by checking out hand machine. Oh, right. Sew hems and hang curtains. And I did actually do that. And the curtains were lovely. I thoroughly enjoyed them, and they were a William Morris fabric. Usually you see it in green. It's willow trees, but that's it in red. And my goodness, it brightened up my kitchen, I can tell you. It was just a little sort of corner in my studio, actually. And I give notes of it as well. So there you are. Anyway, back to a Blackwork. That was an unexpected little interlude, wasn't it? Now, I will be talking, as I say, next week on Blackwork as well. But this took me into a very unexpected direction, and ended up just in this past week with another piece, a totally different embroidery technique. And you know, I've tried it out. I don't think I will be doing any more, but it may be something that someone watching here, you know, it may be a breakthrough, and it's the thing you've always been looking for in your life. I have no idea, in which case that would be lovely. I love doing the cross stitch samplers, I have to say. We get the thread and we cross stitch the design, and there we are, and it's relatively quick compared to what I'm going to show you now. What I'm going to show you now does the reverse. When you're looking at art, you can be asked to do a negative drawing, which means that instead of, say you have a teapot, instead of doing the teapot, you might have a teapot and 2 pots on either side. You do the space in between. The space in between is called negative space. I love doing that, by the way. And it's another way of seeing the world. And Assisi Embroidery does this. It does the negative. You fill in the negative shape with cross stitch, and the results are absolutely fantastic, but it's pretty labor intensive. Anyway, off we go, and I will show you Assisi Embroidery, old Italian cross stitch designs. There's one there. Now, Assisi is in the country of Italy, and many of us will associate that with a person who lived there called Francis. That's Francis in English. I suppose it would be Francesco. And he became a saint in the Roman Catholic Church, and he was known for his love of animals and birds, apart from some other things as well. And this is celebrating St. Francis. Anyway, I'll read a little bit. Assisi embroidery is a special form of cross-stitch work. It uses a method known as voiding, voiding, in which the background is embroidered instead of the design. The pattern which remains is then outlined in a double running stitch to give it extra definition. The motifs which are used consist almost exclusively of symmetrically arranged animal pairs, mostly birds, and of course, as a Blackbird design sampler stitchers, we know about birds. Both the designs and the techniques are based on an ancient Italian tradition stretching far back into the Middle Ages, which was revived in Assisi around the turn of this century. Well, that would be last century, because this book was produced in 1988. There are many copies of this on eBay, and I think this is a good enough book, certainly, if you wanted to go. There are probably other ones, and I will show you two other publications that I have used. This lady has suggested that you reverse the actual technique, and I tried her method, and actually I prefer the traditional way of doing it, which I will show you in a minute. But this is a wonderful resource for what are some traditional designs, and also I think she has added more contemporary ones. I have to say I do like the traditional. So I'll show you the, if I put like that, modern designs could be found on, this is Anchor Embroidery book number 518. There are a couple of copies on eBay, but not too many, and they are rather more contemporary. She's using brighter colours. The traditional colours are evidently a faded a blue or a faded red with the outline, a double running stitch in a stronger colour, probably of the same colour range, and so whatever would fit your choice. The Mary Thomas's embroidery book. I'd love to know who Mary Thomas actually was. I haven't come across who she was. If I can, I'll let you know. So what this is very good for actually telling you how. Assisi Embroidery, and she's got a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful design there. Assisi Embroidery is a variation of cross-stitch embroidery. The stitches are the same, but the principle of design is reversed, as it is the background which is embroidered with crosses and the pattern left plain and in outline, like an intaglio. This treatment imparts great dignity to the work, and the designs, which are usually heraldic in character, look effective on banners, ecclesiastical or secular, besides forming handsome borders for tea cloths, bags, etc. And she talks about double running stitch. Now, double running stitch is, as I say, what I used on my book cover, and it's incredibly easy. You keep the length of each of the stitches and the spaces the same. So you make a stitch and then you come underneath, so you're leaving a gap. Make a stitch, come through to the back and leave a gap. Make a stitch underneath and leave a gap. Make a stitch, they're all the same length. Turn, you're under that stitch and make a stitch in the gap. Under the next stitch, make a stitch in the gap. Double running stitch. It is what it says it is. And you transfer the design and you do the design in double running stitch, and then you fill in the background with cross stitch, and you've left the actual design, just you see the cloth on it. You see the cloth on it. And as I say, the lady in this book, Eva Maria Leschner, said that she found it easier to do the cross stitch first and then to put in the outline stitch, which is not the traditional way. I didn't find that was helpful, and I didn't like the final result. Now, this is pretty basic, and I'm sure there'll be people who are an absolute whiz at this, who are going, oh my goodness me. But remember, I only found this last week, so bear with me. And as I say, this is to inspire you, and you might think, oh, that's just absolutely amazing. I really want to have a go and have a go with it. I will link underneath a link to a little episode I found from Assisi, which I found absolutely inspiring myself. It's an American lady, and she shows you the actual Assisi embroideries and some of the people who've done it. Some of them are members of her family, and so you're going right to Assisi, you're going right to the roots of this wonderful very, very ancient way of stitching. What did I use? Well, I went for DMC, black 310, and red. Oh, the anchor, I used anchor red, 1005, which is quite a muted red. If I did it again, I wouldn't do that. I'd run ahead, and I hadn't realised that the actual traditional have this rather beautiful powder blue, or a lovely rather terracotta pink, something like that. And I think I might, if I do it again, then I would be going for these colours. But this was my first attempt. And from Lakeside Needlecraft, who in the UK, who I do use and recommend, I bought the, and I haven't got it. Have I got it here? No, I don't have it here. Anyway, I know it was 22 count Hardanger. That's what I used. 22 count Hardanger. Fabric, and it came, I think it came the next day, but you can choose what you want. The thing is to have an even weave, and this is my result, and I built that from the Maria Leschner book, and that's what you can get. It took me 2 days. I'm slow stitching, and you can see the flower there is the thing that's left on the fabric, and the outlines are in black, and then I have done the cross stitch in red, and then the extra little rather lighter detailed design underneath I've done in red, which you actually probably traditionally I should have done in black, but there you go. And what else can I say about that? There was something else I was going to say. Oh yes, because I was just beginning, I probably chose something that was really rather tricky, especially on this count. And if you were starting and you wanted to have something just slightly easier, I would choose a design that didn't have curves. I love curves, it's my sort of artistic background. I just love the curves. But the curves mean that you're doing half a cross stitch, and on 22 count that was actually really quite, because I was doing it 1/1, was quite demanding. Many of the designs are literally just on the grid. They're just straight lines. There are no curves at all, and that actually would be easier if you're starting. And there you can see my flower. And if I was going on, I'd be doing the bird next, but I don't know about that. Now, this is my next work, which I will show you next week. It's in bits and pieces at the minute. I'm working on that, and that is not blackwork, as you can see. That is a different technique altogether, another direction. I have so many directions. It's difficult to choose where to go and what to leave out. There's just so much. Life is just so full of a number of things. You would think we should be as happy as kings. Robert Louis Stevenson. There we are, another week. Have a great time stitching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.